Our national migration crisis is supercharging the growth of homelessness all over the United States. I would say all over the Western world. But this concerns the United States. This is a report by Michael Snyder. Over the past 3 years, millions of migrants have come pouring into this country looking for a better life. They were promised that things would be so much better once they got here, but for so many of them, that has turned out to be not true at all. There just are not enough resources to care for the vast number of migrants that are arriving, and as a result, many quickly find themselves homeless. It's a tragedy of monumental proportions, and it's getting worse with each passing day. Just look at what's happening in the city of Chicago. According to a new report that was just released, the homeless population in the Windy City tripled between January 2023 and January 2024. The number of Chicagoans living in the city shelters or on city streets tripled between January 2023 and January 2024, according to the annual survey used by federal officials to track homelessness, city officials announced on Friday. When your homeless population triples in a single year, you have a major problem on your hands. And please keep in mind that these are not just the ones that they can actually find and count. Studies have shown that the real homeless population is often several times greater than official counts reveal. According to this latest report, the migration crisis is the primary reason why the homeless population in Chicago is exploding. The point-in-time count estimates the number of people in shelters, transitional housing, encampments, and other unsheltered locations. The estimate noted the pressures the migrant crisis poses to the city. Since August 2022, Chicago has welcomed over 40,000 new arrivals arriving from the southern border, many of whom have needed shelter and services, it said. The largest increase in this year's shelter count was due to the continued influx of new arrivals to Chicago in 2023. When 40 people showed up, it's easy to take care of them. When 40,000 people show up, that is another matter entirely. A similar thing is happening in San Antonio, Texas. One Catholic charity that cares for migrants says it simply cannot keep up with the huge increase in migration that has occurred. A Catholic charity that has said it cannot keep up with the huge increase of migrants entering San Antonio through the U.S.-Mexico border are now finding themselves on the streets. Over the past several years, San Antonio has been completely transformed. According to official city data, a whopping 619,919 migrants have arrived in the city since January 2021. According to the city's migrant dashboard, as of June 19, migrant arrivals since January 2021 have totaled 619,919. Those numbers peaked in November and December 2020 at 30,900 and 37,146 respectively. For many, San Antonio is not the final destination, but there are others that have ended up stuck in the city because they literally have nowhere else to go. I can tell you we have seen a huge increase in people in the streets, so we have our mobile units go around like South Side, West Side, places we usually give out food to the homeless people. We're having now an increase in people coming to the food pantry, and our mobile unit who are from Venezuela, says Fernandez. With no place to sleep and no money for a bus or plane ticket, Fernandez said many of these migrants are out on the streets, adding to the homeless population Catholic Charities already serves. We should all be greatly saddened by what we are witnessing. So much of this suffering could have been easily avoided if our politicians had made different decisions. At one shelter in Los Angeles, it's being estimated that migrants now account for about 90% of the people that are being served. We're mainly serving people that come from other countries like Venezuela, Honduras, Nicaragua, says Salvador Mendoza, the shelter's lead case manager. He said, I will say, 90%. The bulk of the shelter's residents are now asylum seekers who have arrived in the U.S. in the past several months, he said. Most are from Venezuela, some came on buses from Texas, others made it to LA themselves, some after being initially bused elsewhere Many had plans to stay with acquaintances, relatives, or other sponsors, but those plans fell through. So they came to this cruel reality, of not being able to find a job, not being able to have a roof over their head, not knowing the language, not knowing where to go, what to do. So their only option is just being on the street, Mendoza said. Some cities have decided that the solution to the migrant crisis is to simply ship migrants elsewhere, somewhere else. Recent reports that Denver was shipping a large number of migrants at Salt Lake City caused a tremendous uproar. News that the city of Denver was covering the transportation costs of some immigrants to travel from the Colorado capital to Salt Lake City caused an uproar last Friday. Denver, also overwhelmed by an immigrant influx, has also covered the cost of transporting immigrants to Chicago and New York City, which actually received a larger influx than Salt Lake City, according to a report last February by Denverite, a Colorado publication. Cox called Denver's practice completely unacceptable and said Utah resources are completely depleted. Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County officials also said the situation has stressed their ability to contend with the housing and other needs of the migrant immigrants, which led to the alert published in both Spanish and English. Denver is absolutely overwhelmed by migrants, but so is Salt Lake City, and so is Chicago, and so is New York City. Transporting them from city to city is not going to solve anything. But many local politicians feel like they have to do something because of all the social problems that are erupting. In the Big Apple, New York City that is, there has been a lot of violence and crime, and that includes one recent incident involving 2 police officers. A mob of migrants facing assault charges after allegedly pummeling 2 NYPDs outside of Queens Hotel shelter. And when they asked about the unsupervised kids, the men literally pounced on them. Now, as I've been relentlessly warning my readers, a tremendous amount of social unrest is in our future, and adding millions of extremely desperate migrants to the equation is only going to make things even worse. We depend upon our politicians in Washington to make common sense decisions, and they have completely and utterly failed us. Now, major cities all over the nation are being absolutely overwhelmed by deeply suffering people, and that is a reality that should greatly sadden every single one of us. This is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. This is by Michael Snyder. About the author, Michael Snyder's extremely controversial new book entitled Chaos is available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 7 other books that are available on Amazon, including End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Finally, support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.